Hey guys, this is Miss Sharps here to read a little bit to you today. I'm going to be reading from the Simple and the Complex Machines booklet. Um, if you see on your work pages it says complex, it also might say compound. It's the same thing, it just means more than one, okay? So we're going to be looking at the table of contents. You guys know the table of contents is how you find different information and where you're going to find it on which pages. So I'm going to read just a few pages. I won't be reading the entire book today, but I do want to read at least the introduction and a little bit more. This is called the introduction. Remember, always read your headers. How do you work? Or how do you do work? How do you eat cereal or loosen the lid of a jar? You probably use tools. Tools make work easier to do. A machine is a device that uses energy to do work. Tools that have only a few parts are called simple machines. A hammer is a simple machine. Some machines combine several simple machines, like clocks and bicycles are complex machines. In this book, you'll learn how much machines make work easier. So this should be kind of a review from what we've learned about already in class. I like to read the little did you know up here. So it says, did you know animals use tools too? Apes use sticks to get ants out of an anthill, and sea otters use rocks to crack open clamshells. Crows can make wire hooks to get food of all from a tall, thin container. So that's really cool. I didn't know that. I didn't think about that as being a machine. What do we mean by work? In science, work means moving something. To move something, you use force. The more force it takes to move an object, the more work is done. The more distance something moves, the more work is done. Whenever you push, pull, turn, or lift an object, you use force. The amount of force it takes depends on how heavy the object is. It takes a lot more force to move a big rock than a small rock. And kind of the same example goes here. And then they're going to talk about the inclined plane. So who remembers what this is called? It tells you about what the picture is going to be, so it's a caption. Both ramps do the same amount of work. The top ramp requires twice as much force as the bottom ramp, but the bottom ramp covers twice as much distance. Which ramp would you rather use? So it's kind of like saying if you're taking this ramp, this is going to take a lot more energy and force because it's a short ramp, and so you have to get it up really high. Or would you take this ramp and take a slower time, and even though it's slower, it's a lot easier to move it up? Which one would you do? I think I would probably do this one because slow and steady wins the race. Machines make work easier by reducing the amount of force it takes to move an object or load. But there is a trade-off. Machines make your work easier, but you have to work over a longer distance. Types of simple machines. We've talked about a lot of these in class. This is probably the last page I'm going to read for today, and then I'll read some more of it later. But make sure that you're reading this too. Types of simple machines. There are only a few types of simple machines. Some have no moving parts. Some have just a few moving parts. Below are the 7 simple machines we'll read about in this book. So you guys should know this is a slide. That's an inclined plane. A hatchet or an axe. That's a wedge. A seesaw. It's a lever. Does anyone remember what that middle part's called? A fulcrum. Good job if you got it. A gear. The gear is kind of like the wheel and axle. A screw. And a pulley. All right. This is a picture of a 250-pound refrigerator. And 175 pounds is how much this guy weighs, and he is forcing it up. So So that's going to take a lot more effort, but this is an easier way to get it up than trying to pick it up. The inclined plane is a very simple machine. It is a surface with a slope or incline. Inclined planes help us change the height of heavy objects. A common inclined plane is a ramp. And we talk about that all the time because we have a ramp outside of our trailer. Furniture movers use ramps. It is easier to slide a heavy box up a ramp than it is to lift the box straight up. Moving the box up the slope of a ramp takes less force. The longer the ramp is, the greater its slope, or the gentler its slope, and the less force it takes to move a box up it. But remember the trade-off. The gentler and longer the slope, the further you have to push it or pull the load. Okay, so that's all I'm going to be reading today. Make sure that if you haven't started reading this, why don't you start on wedges and screws if you've already read or if you've listened to me read. Alright guys, make sure you're keeping up with your work. If you have any sort of questions, you can video chat me, you can message me, do whatever you need. Alright, bye.